Hello, Book of Faces. This is number 24, Quarantine Cafe. 24. So thank you all so much for joining us, or watching us later, or if you're watching us on YouTube way later. If you're watching us linked by Twitter, hello Angry Mob. Nice to see you all. So we're kind of, this is the real deal for us. We are following orders as best we can. We are not coming into contact with people, and as such, trying to limit our trips to the grocery store. So, as you may see over the next week, we're going to kind of take stock of things, see when we need to make another shop, and part of it is I actually have notes today. I am prepared. I feel like I'm legitimate here. And I'm going to kind of walk through while some of our stuff is simmering, so instead of having dead air, how you guys can kind of help prepare for a shop, at least like I would. To where if we have our basics already on hand, you can really leave it up to whatever fresh items are available, and then just some pantry stuff to where if we really need to scrape the bottom of the barrel, as we're about to do, to make the most of it. So
you've got merch, you got notes, like this is the real thing.
Good grief, yeah, this is, for not having a job, this is kind of like a job. So merch, shout out Kate Rollins, Inked Apparel Company. The official Quarantine Cafe t-shirt, we'll post the link for that when we put the recipe up today. Please buy it. We don't get anything out of it, but, it's kind of the sentiment of we're all in this together. Please help support some really good people who are being very kind to us. So, thank you. So we're going to make kind of a good old standby. I think everybody loves that combo of tomato soup and grilled cheese, right?
Yes!
Well, unless, either the soup, or, tomatoes or cheese or bread aren't your thing. So I'm going to kind of get into this because it's pretty easy, actually, because we got other things to talk about, too.
What did you just put in there?
I just put an onion in there. This is, if you've been watching me long enough, you'll see that probably 90% of what we're doing starts with onion and garlic in some capacity. And that's for a few reasons. Number one, when they're cooked down, they're an easy, versatile, as we get to talk about our list, versatility is going to be key. You can make a lot of stuff if you just have a couple of easy building blocks like onions and garlic. And they're durable. It's one of those that you can buy, and they're meant to be cellared, so they'll typically last if they're well stored in your home for at least 2 weeks. As you see, I always just kind of put little pinches of salt as I'm cooking with onions. It's a desiccant, helps draw some of the moisture out of it, helps them cook faster. And also it's part of our layering and developing of flavor. So just wanted to kind of show off. I know a lot of you were on the bread baking kick. Me too. This is brioche that we did yesterday, so that's going to be our grilled cheese coming up.
Yum, yum, yum. We have to get bigger loaf pan, though, apparently.
Yeah, it's this is one of those, it's fun to kind of see work with what you got. I mean, even chefs that I admire a lot, watching kind of their things from Don't Panic Pantry to survival cooking. I think that's what Chef Gabriel was doing. But he was making spätzle, and he was just using like crappy garage store plastic bowls and the casserole dishes that we've all had since the 70s or something. The white ones with the little blue flower,
of course,
swirl in
yes,
the center that everybody got.
It's not like Corningware or something like that.
I think so. I know we had one when I was growing up, and shout out to my mom. My mom is one of those who, because I'm an only child. Whenever they moved from Natchez to Atlanta, my mom did what her mother did, and all but retired from the kitchen. As it was well earned. She cooked so much for me and us when I was growing up, and all through our time in Natchez, well deserved. And now she's being called back into action again because of the quarantine down there in Ecuador. So, love you, Mom.
What's your mom's favorite? What's your favorite dish that your mom makes?
Oh, my goodness. So, my mom makes a really good chili. Her lasagna is excellent. If I had to pick one, though, and she hadn't made this in a while, but this is something that was really regular growing up, was she would do, it was almost like a Monday night thing for a while, because you could get frozen crawfish tails down in Natchez very easily, and that kind of became part of our pantry. And so she would make a crawfish pie, like
Yum.
crawfish, rice. It was kind of creamy, had aromatics in there. Just, so good. I think if anybody who's worked with me long enough, every once in a blue moon, I'll kind of break out a a tribute to that and make like little crawfish empanadas and stuff like that. So while that's cooking, we have onions, we have garlic. If Emerald's watching, sorry, garlic. As you can tell, I've been watching enough old cooking videos on YouTube.
Oh, and the red pepper.
And the ubiquity of the crushed red pepper. And I keep messing up, and apologies to Kate Williams or anybody who worked with me. The preferred nomenclature is red pepper flakes when you're editing a recipe according to APA style guidelines.
Good to know.
So it's got a little black pepper to it. So yeah, this was just kind of clear some of these things out of the way. This is really just rating what we had and doing the best of what we can. You know, I would probably prefer to use. We have one can back there, and I wanted to maybe use it for something else where it's really needed. So this is just straight diced tomatoes. We got tomato paste. If you can find the tubes, that way you don't feel compelled to have to use exactly 7 ounces of tomato paste and take up fridge space. And I had somebody send me a message and ask about herb purees. Tomato and basil are naturally very good friends, and I've never really used one of these things before, so I figured we'd buy it and give it a shot because we hadn't been to the store in about a week, maybe a little longer.
Yeah.
And if we were to have fresh basil, which we did at one point, and used it quickly, it would be dead by this point.
So what is that?
This is stir-in paste, finely chopped basil for a sweet aromatic flavor. So
it's squeezed basil.
Yeah, I seriously, this has not been used. I just kind of took the little aluminum foil seal off of it. It doesn't have quite that army green color like I was expecting it to. It's preserved a little bit better. I don't know if that's just citric acid in there or what that's doing.
It's some good color.
Yeah, and it smells like sweet basil. I mean, look at the ingredients here.
Hopefully basil's in there.
Basil is number one. Oh wow, this is everything a growing boy needs. Dextrose, canola oil, whey, sodium lactate, sea salt, ascorbic acid to protect color and flavor.
My.
Xanthan gum.
So we'll be dying later today.
So no, it seems like it almost seems closer to like a packaged pesto.
There you go.
Than it does. But hey, we'll give it a shot. I would probably rather try something like this, at least without using it. I'll give you the verdict later on. Versus dried basil, because I don't really see much use in having dried basil. But if you do, good on you.
Yeah. So we got some friends in the house.
What's
we got
up?
Amy Guido and Mac Nation. We got Lauren Z.
T-Mac.
And Yale and Lee from DC. Krista Miller back in the house. She came back after we used the M word, so glad to have her back.
That
was all me.
That was your fault.
That was my fault.
You badger the witness, Your Honor.
That's right. Sorry.
So,
it's been cooped up too long.
We'll not relive that one. So this part's totally optional. I usually don't do this when I make my tomato soups, but I've got some tomato paste. This is kind of to counteract the fact that I've got canned tomatoes in juice.
So what are you having to counteract with the paste?
So if I were to make this on a perfect day and I was using, let's just say I was going to use canned San Marzano tomatoes, right? Because it's winter and we want to use, hypothetically it would be winter and we want to do our soup and sandwich type thing. You'd want to use those canned tomatoes. I would have onions and garlic and chili, and then I would let the tomatoes in their sauce kind of stew for a while before I finish with the cream and basil. So since these are a little watery, I want to add some tomato paste, and that will also help thicken the soup.
Okay, good to know. We also got another Etsy purchase. We got another dish towel.
I feel like a 13-year-old who gets excited about seeing profanity on anything. So this will be the new motto at the end of the show.
That's right. No, we're not going to say it. Well, just no. I just thought it was funny. And there was an Etsy artist, and it's a tea towel. It's actually made from a flour sack. So, you got to support your local artists, and that'll be our memento. It's
my publicist reminded me to wash my mouth.
That's exactly right.
Because really, I feel like I'm lying to you. This is, this is in large part what I'm like to work with. I try and be informative. I try to be entertaining. I want to be kind of open and nice to everybody. But there are a lot of F-bombs that come out. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But it's just, you work in a kitchen long enough. It's not really, usually not with malicious intent. It's not anything. It's just kind of
slips out.
It's a state of being. It adds it's colors on my palette.
That's right. A little bit of color.
That's right.
So
blue. That's the color.
It's a little blue.
Like blue humor.
Right.
So I'm looking for this to kind of get doing a little burner that could a little bit, not quite rusty, but enough to where it's kind of toasted.
Right.
Which it seems to be.
Hey, John Barkell's back.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
I should give a shout out. I'm kind of giving some love to some other restaurant friends. I need to give a shout out to anybody who is currently or has ever worked with Fifth Group restaurants. Restaurants are hurting right now, so please give everybody some love. Especially, I know he's moved up in the world, but I love John Barkell. If you have a crossword to say about John Barkell, we can't be friends. But yeah, so I even had on my notes. Make sure if you're doing these to-go orders, tip heavier than you've ever imagined. Think like 40 to 50% if you can. Every little bit helps, but this really goes. Restaurants aren't making profits. They're either hemorrhaging money or they're just struggling just to make a payroll. So. And not have to lay more people off than they already have. So please work that into your routine if you can. Most folks are being able to do it safely, contactless drop off. Some, if they kind of have it right, they'll stick it right in the trunk of your car. Won't contact anybody. And don't do what some nasty person did and leave a bad Yelp review. We already don't like Yelpers as it is, but now the stakes are really high.
Yeah, no Yelp reviews during quarantine. That's just like the lowest of the low.
Unless it's massive 5 stars for everybody and help boost that.
Yes, that's true.
That's acceptable. So while this is going, I'm looking to kind of bring this up to a simmer. I'm going to crank the little burner that could all the way up while it's kind of doing its thing. I'm going to do the non-shoemaking thing and actually take my spatula out of the soup while it's doing it. So really instead of just sitting there and watching a soup come to a simmer or watching me make a grilled cheese sandwich, which I would hope that anybody out there can do, part of the notes that I had were how it seems like a lot, but this is just kind of I want start to finish how to stock a pantry and some things that we have and we find important. Maybe we can talk to our graphics department. We don't have a graphics department. I'll learn how to become the graphics department and put something up that looks good that you guys can follow. Maybe if I can't figure it out, I'll just do something terrible like Microsoft Paint.
Who knows?
Who knows? So, just some basic things to have if you're going out on a big shop and let's just say maybe you're looking at some of these recipes, you're like, maybe I don't have it. Just some basic things to have. So I think most important, if I could tell you to get anything and you don't have it already, oil, salt, and pepper. The oil can be anything. Extra virgin olive oil to me is the most versatile. I typically like to have another either neutral or oil with a high smoking point, like a canola or a vegetable or something like that, just in case you ever get the hankering to fry. I don't think we fried in here unless I was doing photo shoots, but that's just us. Or if you wanted to sear something, you may want it on something that's not going to smoke your kitchen out. Or even for making things like salad dressings or mayonnaise, having a neutral oil that's not as has that good bitterness like olive oil. Salt and pepper, we use kosher for everything. If you're baking, you may want to use some iodized salt, and that's more in like the cakes and stuff. We don't really use it that often. Black pepper, we've got the grinders, so whole black peppercorns, but if you just want to buy the powdered stuff, just know what you're getting. I like to have some type, we need acidity in just about everything we cook. So having a vinegar, you don't have to buy the whole lot of them, just even just something as simple as one, like a red wine vinegar would be super versatile. Apple cider vinegar is another useful one. If you wanted something a little more age on it, a sherry vinegar, a balsamic. We probably don't use a lot of.
If you could use one vinegar, what would it be?
If you had if you had no vinegar in your house and you were going out to buy one, I would say get a red wine vinegar.
There you go. Gail is asking, what's the difference between kosher and iodized salt?
Good question. So it's the process that it goes through, but the main part is a coarse grind. So if you can kind of, I don't know how close you can get on this.
That's really coarse.
Yeah, and different brands of salt are even more coarse. Like, from what I've found in the restaurants, we use more of a brand called Diamond Crystal. I feel like it's a finer, it's still a kosher salt, but it's a finer grind, and it doesn't, you run less of a risk of over salting some things. This is Morton's, which is most commonly available in these supermarkets, but it is a coarser grind, and so they just the densities are different. They also, if iodized salt, if you're using it to season things directly in, it can have a little bit of a metallic aftertaste, and because it is so fine, you also do run the risk of oversalting things.
Yeah, that's iodized is what you normally have in table salt, like at restaurants and stuff, right?
Right, and if, like we talked about, if you're baking sometimes because you want it to disperse a little more throughout, that's an okay one to have. Sometimes I'll even use it if I'm making like a seasoned flour to make fried chicken. It depends, but half the time it's kosher anyway.
Kosher.
In the dried herbs and spices realm, we've got a lot just because we've acquired them over time. Crushed red pepper is the one I probably use the most. Pick one dried herb if you don't have any. Dried oregano we probably get the most use out of, but dried thyme is fairly versatile. I wouldn't do anything like dried parsley, dried cilantro, dried tarragon, any of those soft herbs, because they kind of taste like nothing when you dry them out. Cumin we use a lot, especially if you like Latin or Southwestern foods, even some Middle Eastern stuff, that's a good one to have. Cinnamon, especially for you bakers out there.
Oh, I use lots of cinnamon.
Paprika and or chili powder of some sort. Turmeric.
Take your turmeric.
Taking turmeric now. So no, that's not one you need to have. We just really enjoyed the Mark Maron stand-up special on
turmeric.
Make sure you have the black pepper to activate it.
That's right.
On Netflix. So not necessary.
And we'll post this online.
Yeah.
So don't worry, you don't have to take copious notes or even watch this over and over. We're gonna post the pantry, the perfect, well, not the perfect pantry, the quarantine pantry.
The best you got. I mean, that's really some of these, as we'll go through like categories of things, best case scenario. I find breadcrumbs pretty versatile, but again, if you get stale bread, you can make your own. All-purpose flour. Mm-hmm. If you're looking to get into the sourdough kick, you may want to look at investing in bread flour, but all-purpose is super useful. Something like yellow cornmeal, polenta, or grits, good to have, can also easily become a side dish. So polenta's a really good backbone to make a cake.
What about beans?
Yeah, that's down the list here, but I'll go ahead and talk about that. The Publix where we shop, I think most Publices, whatever the plural is, has put a little bit of a limit on how many you can buy, which is good because that means that we're all going to be able to get our share. But that, to me, that's super versatile. Canned and dried. White beans, black beans, navy beans, kidney, pinto, black-eyed peas, chickpeas, lentils, anything you want. Canned, dried. Keep them, they're great. Canned tomatoes, you've seen we use paste, we use crushed, we use diced. That goes in just about any cuisine, especially in the Western world. As far as condiments and things, mustard would probably be the one that I couldn't live without.
What kind of mustard? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Whatever you like. If you wanted to pick one for versatility, probably Dijon is a good one. I am very partial to Creole mustard or whole grain mustard. That's just me. I think having a sweetener of some type, sugar, maple syrup, honey, agave, whatever your preference is. This is one of those.
We just bought some maple syrup.
We did, because we didn't realize that we were nearly out. Because we don't really eat a lot of pancakes or waffles, but a lot of you guys do, so it's something important to have on hand. I like having something pickled in a jar. Usually I go for the sour version just because I can make a quick pickle myself. I could make a sour one, but I don't want to wait 3 or 5 days for them to naturally ferment. If you guys like to make a lot of soups or sauces and have limited fridge space, I know everybody says, make your own chicken broth. Well, chickens have been in hard supply these days, and I think we have gotten it down to where we're only doing about one soup a week.
Yeah, I was gonna say I usually stock up on broth. That's usually a good call, like vegetable broth, chicken broth. I don't think we really use beef broth that often, though, right?
No, not really.
How's the soup looking?
It's getting there. I'm trying to. So making soup is about 3 things. They talk about being able to cook eggs is the mark of a really good cook. Being able to roast a chicken. I would also add to that being able to make soup. is the mark of a great cook, because it requires knowing the order of ingredients that you want to add to be able to develop the most flavor. It is about seasoning and heat control, and we are working on the heat control part of this thing. I mean, even some of the more, I mean, there are dishes that I can still recall as super memorable soups. Wendy, remember at French Laundry, what's one of the things that immediately jumps out?
Oh yeah, we had that tomato cappuccino soup.
Yeah, it tasted like
a little. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, it's just like...
You're on camera.
Sorry, I'm getting excited. Like, cut you off. I'm like, yeah, that's the one! It just tasted like the most intense, creamy tomato soup you've ever had, but it jumps out as memorable at Food and Wine Fest, which, another peel back behind the curtain, as a chef, we all hate. Chefs, my brethren, if we can rally together and never do those again, that would be great. But the late Angus Brown had a corn soup at Food and Wine that just, it was so intensely corn flavored. It was balanced, it was refreshing, it was delicious. I remember that one, even though that was probably 8 years ago. And they're just a good outlet for leftovers too. If you got a bunch of odds and ends hanging around the fridge, remember the ribolita that we made from a while back? That's a good place to use up scraps and turn them into a larger dish.
Yep.
So I feel like we're getting
throw it in a bowl, make it a soup.
So I feel like we're getting some,
Simmer.
Yeah,
I hear some action going on.
Yeah. So we're gonna add the basil paste. Going with about a tablespoon here. I'm gonna see how that works. We can always add more. You can't take out.
So what are you guys eating at your house for lunch today? Post a message. Let us know what you're cooking.
That's right.
We always want to know what you're cooking. We need ideas too,
Yeah. And so we kind of like a creamier tomato soup around here. So I had just a little bit of cream left over. Not a ton relative to the amount of soup. Because if you are using cream, fat, while things like animal fats have good flavor, what things like dairy tend to do, cream and butter, they add richness, but they mute flavors. So if you want something that's intensely acidic and tomato flavored, you may not want to go all in on the cream. But we're going to let this simmer and thicken up. We'll kind of go back to our list of stuff here. Pasta. Pasta is big for us. So,
there's so many kinds of pasta, though. Like, if you were to get two different types of pasta, like dried, what would they be? Like, for the most versatility.
I would pick a long strand first. So spaghetti would be probably number one. Linguine, anything like that. And then I would pick some type of shape. If you wanted to use gemelli or bow tie or penne or something, ziti gives you the versatility to be able to make baked pastas. You can put them into soups. You can make pasta salad, stuff like that. So I think one of each would be good to have.
Okay, we got some lunch plans coming up. We got Lee says she's making angel hair pasta with some basic tomato sauce and black pepper.
Nice.
Also, and this is on our list of things to do, Krista Miller says she's making soba noodles with shiitake mushrooms.
Whew! If we weren't quarantined. So that kind of went through most of them on our list. I'm going to kind of touch back on what Chris is making. That's going to circle into the optional part. Rice is huge for us.
Oh yeah.
And pick whatever kind you feel like you're going to eat more often. I mean, a long grain is really versatile, but if you wanted something kind of fat and starchy like an arborio for making risotto, I think we're going to do rice pudding.
Yay!
Later on in the week. I think a dried fruit to have on hand, raisins, dried cranberries. I know Wendy makes a lot of Instant Pot oatmeal.
Kari Lloyd is making bagel sandwiches. Wasn't Todd Mussman making bagels?
He was, and they look so good. So good for
We're not allowed to call him Doughboy, though.
No. The old Ice Cube reference. And as far as kind of a little more perishable items go, onions and garlic we touched on. Lemons and limes, especially if you're so cocktail inclined. Mm-hmm. What else do we have on here? Butter. Any type of other dairy, if you wanted to have milk, if you wanted to have cream. Buttermilk was in really short supply, but if you like to bake a lot or if you like to fry, that's a good one. Eggs, any kind of cheese you like. And then we've also kind of added recently, it's going to encompass a lot of things, lunch meat.
Yeah.
So that can be anything from bacon to sausages, to salami, to turkey.
Mortadella.
Mortadella's my favorite. It was baloney before Americans wrote it.
That's right.
And so kind of to speak into Krista's deliciousness that she has, if you like a certain cuisine, there are some elements of that you can buy and have on hand for versatility. You don't have to buy every ingredient just to really pack out your pantry, but if you like things that are more of an Asian bent, and I'm going to exclude Indian from this since it's very much a spice highway and deserves its own respect of deliciousness, but things like soy sauce, fish sauce, coconut milk, ginger, sambal, gochujang, kimchi is great to buy, miso paste, sesame. If you like a lot of Japanese food, buying dried bonito flakes or kombu would be really good. If you like cooking a little more Italian or some of the Mediterranean cuisines, olives, capers, anchovies.
Kalamata olives.
That's right.
I love those.
Even things, we talked about cheeses, but like pecorino romano or parmesan. If you like more of a Latin pantry, making sure you have tortillas or chipotles or things like that.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm gonna blend this up now because you can see it's starting to thicken just a bit.
Okay. You could actually eat it that way though too if you like rustic, or should you always blend it if it's a creamed?
I wouldn't really probably wouldn't call this soup right now.
Okay.
Until it's creamy. Technically you could, I guess.
I was gonna say.
It'd be very, very rustic.
So we got Leanne Peace Shepherd is watching, and Joan Jones, and Charlie Zarimba.
Zaremba, yeah, Charlie. You know Charlie from MT.
I know, but I don't know his last name.
Okay. Hey, Charlie.
Charlie is such a great baker. He makes the most delicious desserts at Muss and Turner's.
And if you don't have a hand blender like we do, you can use an actual blender. You can use a food processor. You could use a masher. It would have a more rustic consistency, but if you just had a potato masher on end, that would work too.
Very cool. By the way, I've made a tomato basil soup for tea. It's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan said, I'll just wait for you to stop.
Okay. I'll stop now.
Okay, so Morgan says he keeps Thai red curry paste in the fridge. It lasts forever, makes a meal almost any combination.
And he's right. I love having curry paste on hand. I hate that I forgot to mention that on there, but it's a good addition to broths. Like, it pairs with coconut milk super well. And so if you're inclined to make soups or curries or what else? Even things like mussels. Like we said, if you go the day of a shop, and I can blend this a little bit more.
Yeah. Shove it in there so it doesn't splash everywhere. Everybody's got you can pick these things up and they last forever. They're very shelf stable. A lot of the spices and a lot of those pastes and stuff.
So last thing, and thank you guys for sticking with us. Can you see how without that notebook this would be just incredible? This would be nothing left. Just give it a taste. You can always, the good part about seasoning in stages is that hopefully we're not going to need anything extra. If you have to dump a ton of salt in at the end of it, you kind of blew your chance to really add layered, developed flavor. Just needs a little bit, not a ton.
Krista Miller says she always has anchovy paste on hand to bump up umami.
Yes, umami is very big. I learned a trick. I've been following David Chang on Instagram, and if you have been following, or if you haven't and you know who he is, he's the chef owner of the Momofuku Empire. He's been staying with some friends or family or in-laws or something somewhere and being trapped with very few ingredients and using that's what he's calling the culinary dark arts. But to be able, he's using to season, let's just say you're making tomato sauce in pasta, he's been using to add umami instead of Parmesan cheese, fish sauce.
Interesting.
Sounded super crazy. But yeah, so that's it. We've got creamy tomato soup. I'm going to make some grilled cheese sandwiches. If you have any questions, let us know what you guys are making. If you have any requests and stuff that you guys want to see, please let me know. We got nothing to do. We'll be in here. Well, she does. She's working, but I got nothing. So we'll see you guys. Until then, stay safe, stay indoors, and see you guys.